Das Goswami, Disappearance Day of Srila Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, and Disappearance Day of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. So three super exalted devotees that are great preceptors of Gaudiya Vaishnava, they left at that day. Probably different year, we're not sure. We have to research, but this is the day that they left. And this is the day after the Ekadashi. And we have to say something about that from a spiritual ontological point of view so that people understand. According to the scriptures, some of that mentioned Hari Bhakti Vilasa and other scriptures, there are two passes. It's also mentioned briefly in Bhagavad Gita. So there are astronomical time in this world when there's auspicious departure. In Gita, Krishna mentioned very briefly, but it's mainly contained to mystic yoga. However, in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadev Goswami explained to Maharaj Parikshit the principles of leaving the body through the mystic yoga. And on very end of Srimad Bhagavatam, he explained that after you hearing all this Krishna consciousness, you no longer need follow that special procedure. In other words, if a mystic yogi who's practicing a certain part of mystic yoga, which is called Tattva Gyan, understand the position of elements and planets and can control the elements within own bodies, he can discharge from this material world at chosen auspicious time. And if he's done the proper way of discharging his body and go to a proper astronomical time, then he entering higher destination. However, it is known through Gita and other scriptures that through hearing Krishna Katha, talk about Krishna, one will be naturally drawing towards Krishna consciousness destination through his mind. Why? Because Krishna is all attractive. Therefore, the gopis of Vrindavan, their say is very interesting. They say, we're not the yogis. The yogis, mystic yogis, all they're trying to do is they try to concentrate on Supreme Lord. So if you go to the Bhagavad, they will even give you the meditation that you should have. First, you should look at the feet of the Lord, then you should meditate on his navel, then you should meditate on his chest, then you should see his beautiful face. In other words, you begin very respectively from feet of the Lord, and gradually you discover his divine face. However, the Bimal Mangal Thakur and his Krishna Karnamrita, he gives such sloka which Guru Maharaj loved to quote, Maduram, Maduram, Bhajate, Maduram, Madurasya Vibhor, Maduram, Vadanam, telling that Krishna's face is so sweet, the more sweet his eyes, his lips. So he's just saying beauty on the beauty, the beautiful eyes of Krishna, the beautiful lips of Krishna. So it's an obsession with beauty of Krishna. That's why Bimal Mangal Thakur is considered Shuka Leela of Krishna pastimes. Why is he considered the Shuka Leela of Krishna's pastimes? He blinded himself and he came to Vrindavan to die. However, as Guru Maharaj said, die to live, he rediscovered himself that his external senses does not need it. There's another example of this in Mahabharata, when Dhritarashtra prayed to Krishna, oh please, Dhritarashtra was blind, the father of the bad guys, great king. He prayed to Krishna, please let me see your divine form that you're showing everybody else. Give me back my vision. The Krishna said, you don't need to have an eyes to be able to see me. I will give you that vision. However, Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Krishna Samhita giving very interesting tip for understanding. He said, you can only see Krishna through purified heart, which means the soul. He said the fact you can use your physical eyes and seeing Krishna, just like we're seeing the deity, and we say, oh, deities are very beautiful. What's beautiful in deity? Oh, the dress nice, the smile is nice. But really, the appreciation of the deity builds from within, not from without. Just like Giriraj. Why we dress Giriraj? Somebody told, oh, like Goswami said one time, I just like Giriraj the way it is. If you really look at Raghunath Das Goswami Giriraj, which is in Vrindavan, one of the temples in Vrindavan, Gokulananda temple, Mahaprabhu had such a small Giriraj, which is just a square, no eyes, nothing. So as Raghunath Bhatta Goswami had his own Shila, Shalagram Shila, who's later become Radha Raman. The idea of Raghunath Das Bhatta Goswami was, if this Lord would appear in his Krishna's form, that I could serve him by giving him garland, the flute, the ornament. So what happened next morning? That Shila became a Krishna. But part of the back is kept as a Shila, so that nobody mislead, oh, this is just a statue, somebody taking statue, somebody read the mind. No, that's the same Shila, part of the back of Radharaman. That's why this is very important deity, because it's been breaking out of divine form of Shalagram Shila. And what do we know from scriptures? The Shalagram Shila is Narayan, which is mainly worshipped by Brahmanas on transcendental platform. However, when Gopi runs to chase the Krishna, Krishna sometimes take form of Narayan and hide in four-headed form. But the gopis, knowing that this is divine form of Narayan, tell, stop here, this is God, let's pray to God to achieve connection with Krishna. And once they start praying to Narayan, he's melted and two-handed form with flute coming up, and Gopi again run after him and try to chase him. So what really shows that devotee, he see Krishnas everywhere. That it says in Ramananda Samvat or Charitamrita, when Ramananda say to Mahaprabhu, I don't think you are a sannyasi. Then Mahaprabhu say, who I am? He said, I see within you a black person who remind me of someone, but I also can detect within you the golden female presence. Just like every human has male and a female part of the body. You know, if you eat hormones, nowadays they're trying to change children. Oh, you don't have to be a man, you can become a girl. How do I do that? Just take those pills and that part of your gender will come up. But when we say Mahaprabhu, we can understand in Mahaprabhu hidden Krishna, who's taking heart and hell of Radharani, and Ramananda Rai has divine detection. He say, I think you, as Mahaprabhu, you're an external appearance as a guru, sannyasi, renunciate. But within you, in the deep heart of yours, I see Krishna and Radharani. And Mahaprabhu, he said like that. But the way he's stopping Ramananda, he's not saying it's not truth, because it is truth. He's saying, because you're pure devotee, your problem is you see Krishna everywhere. So being a pure devotee means you see Krishna everywhere, and that is your divine vision. So right now, you are as a pure devotee, Krishna see everywhere. You can see Krishna in the heart of everyone. How can I say that it's not truth? Because Krishna is in the heart of everyone. So when we go to South India, places like Guruvayur, the famous temple, there's a four-headed Vishnu. So once I went there, and they told me, oh, white people not allowed. I said, okay, I'll go outside, I pray. One morning I came to pray to Guruvayur, and the guard told me, oh, why are you staying here? Come. So I quickly took off my short, because you're not supposed to wear the short. You have to be, you can wear the chadar, but not the short. And I went for the darshan. And it was amazing. But next day, when I tried to go to darshan, they said, no, you're not allowed. I said, well, what do you mean I'm not allowed? I was there yesterday. He said, no, it's not possible. No white people have ever been here. Even Indira Gandhi was not allowed. Then I understand, and I cry. Then I understand the Lord is so merciful, He can make you once exception to show you His mercy. But it doesn't really mean that He'll make you exception every day. Otherwise, it's become cheap. So we're coming to see Lord, we think, okay, this morning I don't wake up, I wake up next day, maybe I don't go today, maybe I go tomorrow. But that is like very casual understanding. So appreciation to see the Lord and to really see Him with a heart of devotion, that is business of high-level devotees, not us. So they're doing bhajananandi, they're doing darshan from drishti, like division. We do archan. Archan means we're purifying our own senses from lust, anger, craziness. So when we hear, it's like going to medicinal. That's why I have to take the clothes in South Indian temples, because they say it's not about you seeing the deity, it's the deity ray, its eyes on you. And according to the prana that comes from eyes of deity, that vision of deity will purify you. So once in one South Indian temple of Shiva, I was there and they said, here is the Shiva in the form of fire element. And you should be very careful. Your temperature will increase. Who knows? But when I get there, there's a huge fan blowing air on you, but you feel like your temperature going like almost high, because you're coming to the source of fire, then fire awakens your body. And you feel it, physically feel it. That darshan is special darshan, but you can say, wow, that's amazing, but the darshan we're talking about are different level. It's the darshan of love, it's the darshan of the heart. So speaking about Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, and Krishnadas Kaviraj, these are the three primarily devotees that have seen Krishna with eyes of love. And interestingly, they were connected together, and Krishnadas Kaviraj, what was his business? Is to observe associates of Mahaprabhu and collect all the important pastimes of Mahaprabhu. So it says in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Swarup Damodar, he's expert in dealings Radha Krishna. Anybody claim themselves expert, if they are expert, they must hear only from him. In other words, Chaitanya Charitamrita tells nobody really knows confidential dealings of Radha and Krishna except Swarup Damodar. Why is that? Because he's a Lalita Sakya in spiritual world. You can't deny that. And what is the unique quality of Lalita Sakya? She's always on the side of Radharani. See, gopis like Vishaka, Tungavidya, sometimes they take side of Krishna. Sometimes they say, Radharani, oh, it's too much. You're putting too much pressure on him. How can you do that? But Lalita, she's like, no. Whatever Radharani does, I'm 100% supporting her. Is she whipping Krishna? I'm supporting her. Is she serving Krishna? I'm supporting her. I have no any other interest. Radharani has an opposition, Chandravali. I think it was maybe Lokanath Das Goswami or some other Vaishnavacharya who used to drink a cup of buttermilk a day. That would be his food. And he was living like that. One day his followers thought, the Baba is drinking only 1 cup of buttermilk a day, and that cup from leaf. Let us give him nicer cup. But in that village, that's the cups they have. So somebody been passing another village of Chandravali and see, oh, nicer, bigger cups there. He grabbed a couple of those cups and bring them buttermilk. And he looked and he sees this cup is bigger, nicer. He said, where this cup is coming from? And he said, oh, that village where Chandravali live. That Vaishnav throw that cup and fast all day. He said, I will not take even a cup of leaves from Chandravali's village. That tells you something about inner attitude of devotee and devotion. Because if this is displeasing Radharani, then they will not accept even the food. But again, we're speaking about very high souls. And again, how high souls are, just looking at the life story of Radhanath Das Goswami, we can understand he was part of billionaire family, billionaire, not millionaire. It says in scriptures, his father had such wealth that even the kings would not have such wealth. That's how wealthy his father was. And he thought of his beautiful son as somebody to succeed the wealth. But Raghunath Das, from very early age, did not show any interest in material dealings. Then father thought, well, I want to marry my son, and that's a very Indian way to marry a son or daughter. That's considered to be a duty of the father. And he's like, okay. He married him with the most beautiful women, most beautiful girl. And Raghunath Das did not divine his parents, but he was not excited about family life. So normally, physical attachment is something that can deviate us from spiritual path. But Raghunath Das was not involved in that. The next, his father said, I can give you all my wealth, billions of billions of, because he had wealth in gold coins, like real wealth. He said, it all will be yours. Then Raghunath Das, he said, I'm interested only in spiritual wealth. Then father finally chained him, imprisoned him in his own house. And he told me, I hired the best guru for you. You can do all kind of spiritual person, just being in the house. You can be a spiritual person and have money at the same time, and beautiful wife, and you don't have to do any of it. I'll hire management to, like your wife will take care of your house, your administration will take care of your wealth. All you have to do is just be there and do the spiritual Hare Krishna thing, and I don't really care. But Raghunath Das Goswami heard of Mahaprabhu, and only one desire he had, to run towards lotus feet of Mahaprabhu. So several times he tried to escape, and his father put the guards around him. Only once, when his guru went some other place, and Raghunath Das with his guards came to the guru house, he said, I'm going for the Sanskrit class, so you wait here. So the guards wait, but really he sneaked from the back door and ran through the jungle. Jai Shrimati Bhakti Lalita Ki Jai. So the end of the story, that after weeks of going through deadly jungles with mosquitoes, snakes, and thorns, he appeared to Puri looking like madman. And Mahaprabhu received him very well, and then Raghunath Das Goswami realized, I'm just a Vishoy, I'm a son of materialist, I am materialist. And Mahaprabhu received me like one of the great exalted souls, so daily Mahaprabhu invite me for prasadam. Because the way Mahaprabhu food was arranged, that prasadam will be offered daily at certain price, certain panas, the conch shells, and certain brahmanas or respected people would pay for that feast. So I have some friends in Jagannath Puri, like one of my friends, Dr. Das, he's an Ayurvedic doctor. live by Gundicha. And every time I'm there, he said, Baba, please come to me. And he will buy prasadam from Jagannath temple, and his only question will be, how many people? I said, okay, 5 or 6. He said, as many as you want, you can bring to my house. I said, okay, we don't want to overtake your hospitality. Maybe 5, 6, whatever. And, he will pay for the prasadam, and his idea would be to feed. So the people of Mahaprabhu time, who had understanding of appreciation of Mahaprabhu, and some people on different level, they would invite Mahaprabhu and his devotees. But people like Haridas Thakur, Raghunath Das Goswami never went there. They're like, well, there's a great feast going on, you can eat all, why you're not coming? Because somebody like Haridas Thakur or Raghunath Das Goswami thought, I'm just a materialist, I'm a Vishoy. I don't want to appear as exalted devotees of Mahaprabhu entourage. I want to just humbly chant my name within the mood of Tridadapi Sunichaina Taror Vasahishna. I will self-surrender. And I have to do that. And that will be my way to appreciate that. So at one point we can say it's a very Vaishnava attitude, because it says in scripture, even if Vaishnava get killed or offended, he's not taking this. So the leper Vasudev, he had leprosy. He was eaten by germs and worms. And when worm would fall out of his womb, he would pick it up and put it back, thinking, oh, this poor worm not have food. So when Mahaprabhu left the place, only one desire Vasudev had, come and see Mahaprabhu and die. I want to come see Mahaprabhu and die. Then suddenly, on the way to see Mahaprabhu, he heard Mahaprabhu already left this place. Then he fainted unconsciously. Want to die thinking, I'm such a fallen man, I'm not worthy darshan of Mahaprabhu. The Mahaprabhu, feeling that intense desire in his devotee's heart, went back to see leper Vasudev. Not only he see leper Vasudev, he said, Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita Mati Kriyati Yati Kutopi Labhyate Atra Laila Mekamulya Mekalam Janma Koti Sukritaya Labhyate. Your increased desire of Krishna consciousness will purify you. If Vasudev wouldn't have this such increased desire of see Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu would not come back. That's not an option. You have to have desire. So through that desire, leper Vasudev was liberated by Mahaprabhu, because when Mahaprabhu came to see him, came back to this place, he came specifically to see him. He embraced him. After embrace of Mahaprabhu, his deadly disease of leprosy gone, and he's been reinstated as a pure saint. That's very interesting. We have to believe in that. So sometimes we think, oh, we have so many diseases, physical, mental disease, and hridrogam, the biggest disease of our heart, lust, greed, anger. Then when that disease will leave me? And the true answer is when the true desire of Krishna consciousness will come in your heart, it will remove all the diseases of your soul. But you must have some desire. So once Gunarnava Mishra came to Mahaprabhu and he said, for some reason, something strange happens to me. Mahaprabhu said, what happens to you? He said, I have some desire to hear Krishna Katha. Then I heard of you as a great person. Somebody say you might be Krishna, but I'm not sure about that. But I know that daily you're sharing Krishna Katha with some devotees, so I'm coming to hear from you. And Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself, what does he say? I don't know anything about Krishna. Because Krishna don't know anything about himself. Although Radharani part inside Mahaprabhu knows everything about Krishna, but he said, you have to go to Ramananda. the pure devotee. Then you'll know more about Krishna. Then he went to see Ramananda, and as you know the story, that he was impressed with Ramananda's activity, but later, as he re-understood Ramananda Rai, because he was trying to judge for him external, oh, he's a government guy, oh, he's a theatrical artist performer, his stage, some performance for Devadasis, how he's dealing with all this questionable women. Everybody knows Devadasi, you can't be sure about them because they're not married, but they still have, some of them have worldly desires, so they certainly have reputations being prostitutes, or maybe not. It was like, to him it was like all hodgepodge. But when he started talking to Ramananda Rai, then he understood. Mahaprabhu said there's only one Ramananda Rai. So Raghunath Das Goswami, when he stayed in Puri, his pure desire was to avoid fame. Avoid fame. Not to follow Mahaprabhu, not to take prasad, using Mahaprabhu's reputation, fame. So he thought, if I'm taking this path of renunciation, then I have to leave that way. Then I should go begging. And there's so many beggars by Jagannath temple and people give them something. But then he said, I'm begging like prostitute. Really begging is not begging at all. So next time he sit by the gate of Jagannath temple and wait. And if someone throws something in his plate, eatables, then he will accept that. Fully surrender and mercy of Krishna. Then at a certain point he said, even that is not true. Why I have to make Krishna serve me? Like, am I servant of Krishna or Krishna is my servant? See, there's different stages. One is to live by mercy. One is to conclude, well, I don't think Krishna is my servant. I am servant of Krishna. What do? There's nothing better than prasadam, and prasadam will never get rotten. So there was an interesting story. Some white sannyasis came to Jagannath temple, and they were complaining with Panda. We're devotees of Krishna, why you not allow us? Big shouting, big complaint, big ego. Then one Panda come and throw some prasadam to dogs. He said, can you eat that? Why we have to eat it? You're giving the dogs, what are you doing with that? Then Panda picked up that prasadam and ate. He said, you see, I have no problem to understand prasadam is not get contaminated, but you are, Western blecha, then you should understand why we're not allowing you, because you don't have enough faith. Then somebody can say, well, how is that possible? There's a racist discrimination, we have to stand, everybody should come. But Raghunath Das Goswami never entered Jagannath temple. Haridas Thakur never entered Jagannath temple. They're not considered themselves qualified. So Raghunath Das Goswami went to Ananda Bazar, the place where they cook and serve prasadam. And there's a place where they're throwing remnants of prasadam, which has been rotten, to the cows and dogs and animals. And prasadam stinks. So he would take that stinky prasadam, which rotten, thinking this is divine spiritual food, washing this with water and adding salt for detoxification, and taking that prasadam, thinking I really true exist by remnants of Lord Jagannath, but not to please my tongue, to please my soul. Daily Mahaprabhu would get news about Raghunath Das Goswami. Then finally, when he heard that, he visited Raghunath Das Goswami during lunch, and he grabbed some Raghunath Das Goswami food from the plate and he tasted. He said, Raghunath, now I understand why you're hiding. You're enjoying such incredible, beautiful prasadam without me, and I cannot tolerate this. Just like Madhavendra Puri taking Kirchor Gopinath kheer, and with tears eating the kheer, but also break the clay pot and eat every day part of the clay pot, considering that the pot is not different from prasadam. So as Raghunath Das Goswami did not accept any physical food. That's why as Shad Goswami Ashtaka is mentioned, which we chant, and we have Jiv Jaga had a beautiful chant. It says that they're totally renounced themselves for service of Krishna, nothing for themselves. Even all the Jagannath Prasadam is extremely tasty and extremely opulent. They reject this to say Prasadam is not something external, it's something internal, which we can never understand on our level because like Gopal, he's an incredible cook and he can make incredible offering, which no doubt Gurudev accepts himself. But that level of renunciation, self-sacrifice, self-giving, without any advertising. It was not PR on social media. It was not any kind of advertising. It was completely a mood of devotion, which are worshipable. Therefore, Raghunath Das Goswami became Prayojan Tattva Acharya, Mahaprabhu giving him very special power. So you think, he's a Prayojan Tattva Acharya, he must be a very serious guy. But if you ever read some of his books, you know what his books are? Do you know what his books are? Mainly his books are jokes about Krishna. How Krishna play with gopis, how Krishna, all these stories from Dana Nivartana, and all the stories of dealing with Krishna, Manasa Ganga, Dana Nivartana, written by Raghunath Das Goswami. Not taking any food, sitting at the bank of Radhakund, he writing the most unique books. So then just having a glimpse of that story, you understand, Krishna life is full of everyday presence, jokes, fun, craziness, amazing things, and what he does is inconceivable, and this is like every day going on in the spiritual world. And who are you getting this from? Somebody who can't even eat. But he's eating the spiritual emotions and sharing. So now you say, well, why we're not reading this? We're supposed to be reading these jokes about Krishna every day, but only when we go to parikrama, certain places, we mention some of the stories. Only on parikrama. They also mention in Garga Samhita. But why is that so? Because in order to be able to connect with that reality, you have to be on the level of Raghunath Das Goswami. Otherwise, it all starts clicking on your low chakra, which is always, as one of my theatrical directors said, I said, why is it in every movie it has to be sex, drugs, and rock and roll? He said, because that's how people receive the story through low chakra. Because that's what driving them. Even in like Ramayana, there's love stories and Bali and this and that and Tara and other scriptures, because it's drawing the people's natural interest. Because they're on that level. But when you talk about pure pastimes of Radha Krishna, there's no place for mundane lust. That is described in Srila Prabhupada in Chaitanya Charitamrita comment. I think in chapter 7 or chapter 4, I don't remember. He's clearly explained, he said, you cannot mislead the dealings in Radha Krishna with physical mundane dealings between male and female. Therefore, you're not qualified. Until you're controlled by the lust, anger, you're not qualified to enter those kind of literature, those kind of pastimes. Therefore, how do we get to know about that? Number one, from Guru. Govinda Maharaj and Guru Maharaj sometimes would mention certain things. But really, the third person we're going to talk today is Krishnadas Kaviraj, who did extract everything we need to know to Chaitanya Charitamrita. That has become the most revolutionary spiritual book ever written. Because you would say, well, there are other things in Goswami's literature about deep pastimes and Radha Krishna, and blah, blah. But Krishnadas Kaviraj, his selection of slokas, of concepts, and the stories are extremely medicinal. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explained that when people read Chaitanya Bhagavat, they might get an excuse of Gauranga Nagari. Gauranga Nagari is a Sahaja sect that believe, Mahaprabhu is Krishna, that enjoy with gopis. So which lead them to particular deviation. Because that is the mood of Vrindavan Das Thakur. It could lead to that conclusion if you have wrong thinking. By Krishnadas Kaviraj, he's strictly avoiding any. We're not saying that Vrindavan Das Thakur makes something wrong. We say some people, some Sahaja, using some of his slokas and things, telling this is the evidence. But it's actually not. But in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's no hinge of deviations giving, in case there's a very dangerous, very scary stories of Chota Haridas and other stories that are pretty hardcore stories, and other stories which is not in Chaitanya Bhagavat, and not dealing with Mahaprabhu and childhood pastimes so much, mainly dealing with 3 stages of Mahaprabhu life, and finally going to his deep separation from Krishna, but in a way which you would respectably appreciate that. Like the certain part of Charitamrita is so advanced, so deep, that you only have one way, respectably appreciate this from distance, not try to understand. And Govinda Maharaj would have a comment on that. And basically, the meaning of comment, when you become mature, it will make sense for you. But until you're grapefruit, don't try to be too smart too quick. Otherwise, it will create opposite result. Just like children, they're now trying to put children to adult light. Oh, in the age of 7, you should know everything about sex. You should decide in the age of 6 whether you're male or female. That's what they're trying to promote in the West. Not only on the West, everywhere in the world. They gradually will push this agenda. But unless you mature, you don't know who you are. The maturity has to be there. The age has to be there. The taste has to be there. Understanding has to be there. So same as in spiritual life, we have to mature at a certain point. So Krishnadas Kaviraj giving us selection of the most important things from very beginning to the very end. So that's why we continuously read Chaitanya Charitamrita. Because according level of our maturity, certain things will click. And certain things in the beginning we'll not be able to appreciate. Certain things we'll not be able to understand. But if we continue hearing this all our life, then appreciation will come, because it says Krishna Lila Amrita Sar Sata Sata Satadar. This is a favorite shloka of Gurudev. Krishna Lila Amrita Sar is ocean of nectar. But Shri Gauranga Lila Bai, but the Gaur Lila, that's the essence. Because how can you swallow the ocean? There's a famous Greek philosopher said, Aesop, go drink the ocean. When people say, I'm really interested about science and truth. Okay, so can you drink ocean? I can drink cup of chai. Knowing that it's coming from ocean. And by the way, I like the filter water. But to drink the ocean, that's not possible. So based on this conclusion, people say, well, how can you know everything about God? He's like an ocean. But here's the answer. Shri Gauranga Lilabai. But if you connect with Mahaprabhu, Vinde Vinde Gaur Padara Vindam, that it will reveal to you. Not only that reveal to you, that ocean of Krishna pastimes, we're not talking about mundane knowledge, the ocean of Krishna pastimes, you'll be able to appreciate through Chaitanya Charitamrita. That taste will develop within you because everything is based on taste. If you have no taste for Chinese tea, there is no point of sharing. So one time I was in China and I get a reception in a restaurant. And this person was very wealthy and he wants to impress us. So this restaurant probably bill was like $10,000. And part of that bill was a bottle of expensive wine from 100 years old wine, which maybe cost $3,000 from Italy. And when this person ordered that wine, he didn't know that I'm a beer person. So, but I wouldn't say, I don't drink wine, I prefer beer, and I don't need the expensive one, The German one is good. And of course, it's a joke. So I told him, I really appreciate you because I understand it's something very valuable, and he's sincerely trying to impress us. I said, however, in our tradition, we appreciate tea. Because they know in China, our Hare Krishna people from ISKCON, they don't drink the tea. But we understand in China, the tea is the drink of wisdom. Then I told him, we appreciate some tea. And he said, what kind of tea you like? I said, pu'er. And I thought, he's going to bring the tea. Such a restaurant, they must have pu'er. Then he picked up the phone, called his driver. His driver ran somewhere. He said, you wait. And after 40 minutes, they brought me tea. And he gave to the restaurant waiter to make that tea. I said, that sounds very nice. And he said, that is tea for you. Since 1981, pu'er, 1981, 40 years old tea. I said, thank you. And then I asked that person, one girl that was with us, how much does that cost? She said, at least $3,000. Okay, so he bought $3,000 tea to impress us, and I highly appreciate. So I took that tea, $3,000 tea, not like 1 rupee tea. And the joy that I'm drinking $3,000 tea gave me like $10,000 impression. So I have so much pride, and I'm thinking, I have $3,000 tea, so I'm passing through Villa Govinda, Italy, on my way to Russia for the Vaishnava festival. And there's a bunch of devotees, and I told them, I have very exclusive tea, I like to give you some exclusive tea. And I give them everything, no reaction. Because these people drink coffee. Or they drink chai. They never had pu'er tea before. They can't compare it. See, in order to appreciate the $3,000 tea, you have to drink a cheap pu'er. And even the cheap pu'er tastes nice. But when you know something, when you have a taste, then you can appreciate higher taste. Otherwise, if you have no taste, anything, I could give them anything. So my thing was like, I'm giving these guys $3,000 of tea, but they have no taste. And they're not guilty because they haven't developed that taste. So same as with us. What our guru is giving us is the most higher substance, but we have no taste. Then how do you taste? How do you get taste? You start drinking. You start hearing and chanting Shravanam Kirtanam. Then eventually, some taste will come to you. Then you can appreciate the deity, the guru, the prasadam, the Vaishnava. But without hearing about them, you cannot appreciate. So when Krishnadas Kaviraj did his own selection of the slokas and stories of Mahaprabhu, not only he doesn't want to compete with Vrindavan Das Thakur, which he called Ved Vyas, or Lochan Das Thakur, who did Chaitanya Mangal, or some other authors. You have to understand there are several books about Mahaprabhu, like Bhakti Ratnakar, other. I don't think Bhakti Ratnakar were written. Maybe it was written in time, I'm not sure. But there was definitely several books at that time with Mahaprabhu. But because he had unique position in Vrindavan, it was not just about Mahaprabhu pastimes. See, Vrindavan Das Thakur, he's a son of Narayani. Narayani in spiritual world, the gopi that steal Krishna's remnants. She's a gopi that steals Krishna's food, according Gaur Ganadesha Deepika. So when she born in this world as a Narayani, Mahaprabhu said, I can make anybody Krishna conscious. And people like, okay, devotees. He said, no, you don't understand. You are Krishna conscious, but you are a liberated soul. But I can make anybody Krishna conscious. He called Narayani, come. The little girl came. He gave her some remnants of her prasadam. And he said, Narayani, show them Mahabhav. And Narayani started crying, showing all divine ecstasy. And everybody was shocked. Because she did not know philosophy. She was not initiated. She had no spiritual sadhana practice. Just by Mahaprabhu power, she fully received full benefit of Krishna consciousness. Then later, that same girl, Narayani, delivered another prasada, who's Vrindavan Das. So her son, who heard from all the devotees the pastimes of Mahaprabhu, finally were inspired by writing them down. Remember, he heard from like many, the Vishnu Priya's family, and this devotee, that devotee, because there were many associates of Mahaprabhu at that time still alive, but they were gradually going one by one. So he had to write down. So that became Chaitanya Bhagavat, which is a beautiful stories of Mahaprabhu, mainly dealing in Navadvipa and a little bit of sannyas. But Krishnadas Kaviraj, what he've done is he covered unspoken things. Not only unspoken, he covered hidden things that had been shared by Rupa Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, based on Swarup Damodar, Kadachi diaries, and with the full support of evidential scriptural reference from the Bhagavad. That was his work. And that is highest ever revealed truth, like Gurudev gave the book Amnaya Tattva, Amnaya Prahat Tattvam, that is the Bhaktivinoda Thakur Dasamula principle. That highest revealed book on Krishna consciousness is called Chaitanya Charitamrita, and today, disappearance day of Krishnadas Kaviraj, who said in that book, I'm a completely old guy, man, my hands are shaking. He was about 90 years old. And all the great Vaishnavas gave me the blessings and the wealth. So what I'm giving you is not something coming from me. In fact, some of the poetry from Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur, who has incredible books such as Vrindavan Mahimamritam. And once I started reading the Vrindavan Mahimamritam of Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur, you know what it reminds me? Krishna Karnamritam. And so you would say, Avadhut Maharaj, you're a very fallen soul, how much you know Raghunath Das Goswami book, how much you know Krishna Karnamritam, how much you know this. I can tell you how much I know. At certain point, I took all the books of Srila Sridhar Maharaj and I decided I want to learn all the slokas from Guru Maharaj's books and Gurudev, what they mention. But when I had to learn some of the slokas, I have to look where they came from. And you know what is my conclusion? One sloka is enough to kill you. It's just like one drop of the poison of snake will kill you. You don't need to drink a glass of poison. Just one drop is deadly. So one drop of sloka of Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur is enough. If you start reading Krishna Karnamrita, it's all madmen writing about love of Krishna. So once I saw one time on TV, very ugly, invalid type of people. They're physically disabled, not looking good. And it says, they were in some kind of a, half mental, half charity institution. They meet each other and they fall in love. And she has no eye, he has they're sitting together. But they have so much joy because they're in love. He thinks, this is the most beautiful girl ever. She thinks, this is the man of my dream. Sometimes I'm thinking about myself. When certain people say, Maharaj, I love you, I think, okay. And you're the most beautiful person I ever seen. Because nobody likes me. Am I correct, Gopal? Remember, Gurudev said that story of Lakshmi Devi? She's giving to her carrier bird the garland. And she said, go find the most beautiful person in the world and give it to him. And how you call that bird? Lakshmi? How?
Owl.
Owl.
White owl.
So the owl does not look most attractive for most of the people. It's nice, but it's not the most attractive. But what happens? She traveled all over the world, but she found her baby and gave it to him. Because your baby is the most attractive baby. That's the nature of the mother, the loving heart. So whatever the loving heart is applied, the beauty is within the heart. The beauty is outside, we can say it's Krishna. But still, if you have broken heart of stone with no appreciation of Krishna, you cannot understand who Krishna is. Krishna was here in this world 5,000 years ago, and people like Duryodhana Shakuni thought of how to kill him. And people like Shishupal hate him. So it says they could not really see Krishna. They saw external Krishna. But the true Krishna can only see by eyes of love. So today is a very auspicious day of this preceptors such as Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Bhatt Goswami, Krishnadas Kaviraj. I don't want to hold this lecture longer because I also have to go upstairs and give Russian lecture tonight on the social media. And I don't mind to giving 2 lectures a day because one time I've been giving lecture 12 hours a day for 7 days. Because when I took sannyas, I went to Zaporozhye, and they rent place from 11 to 11 at night. And I said, so what's the program? They said, well, it's available from 11 to 11. So I spoken for 7 days, and one babushka came, and she looked at me, and then she's like... So every day she would come to my lecture, and people would come, leave, but I had to speak non-stop for 11 hours every day. So finally I asked this babushka, so why you are coming here? And she told me, I look at the window, because it was first floor was a chess club. I said, I look at the window, I saw you in a dress of a doctor. And I thought you might be able to help me. So my problem was I haven't slept for 20 years. When I came to your lecture, you were boo, 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 very nice. Then I finally, after 20 years, I fell asleep. I don't know what you're talking about, but I felt very nice. I started coming every day. Then from that day, I understand this is my audience. Because this is also my audience. Because I felt, it's like streaming by eyes of a bug. So anyway, speaking about this story, I can say, even if you old babushka from Zaporozhye never know who Krishna consciousness is, even if misleading guy dressed like this, like a doctor, still you'll get some benefit. What to speak about conscious perception of everything we're sharing here right now as a theory, and second way is a way of practicing. How wonderful this would be. So, but I can tell you one more thing. Out of so much time, I don't think I purified my heart. I think, well, why is that I've been for some time in Krishna consciousness, but my heart is not purified? Still I have anger, greed, lust, all bad qualities within me. Why is that? And I found answer for this question in scriptures. Actually, just recently. But I will not tell right now. Because if you come tomorrow, I have to leave something. Just like Gopal. He's not going to cook all his secret dishes to you in one day. Come every day he'll give something new. This is the proper way of feeding someone. Because if you just give all best food, all in one table, someone not be able to appreciate, not be able to digest, not be able to tolerate. So Gopal give me today a very small plate. Because, well, I'll explain you why, because he's an expert. Because it give you little and see what is your reaction. If you have appreciation, then you can get more. If you have no appreciation, this is good enough. This is good enough nutrition. But if you have certain appreciations, then you can eat more. So with Krishna consciousness, you try to appreciate little. If you can appreciate little, more will come to you. But if you think, immediately I'll try to eat all Hari Katha, all Krishna Katha, put everything on my plate, then the result of this will not be digestive system. You have to be able to digest. So what we're trying to do is eat every day drop, just like homeopathic medicine, every day a little drop of Harinam, every day a little drop of Hari Katha, and that medicine has containing result. It will contain within your heart. And one way you'll see it. Just like today, I thought I cannot speak. But you have to understand. Like today, like you see there in a meeting, I had no power to speak because I'm a jet lag. I slept 2 hours. I wake up today 4 o'clock, went to sleep 2 o'clock. So I sleep 3 hours at night. I slept 2 hours during the day. Ananga wake me up, told me, Maharaj, people waiting for you. You have to go down. I started drinking tea. I thought, how can I go preach today? I'll ask somebody else, maybe Bhakti Lalita. But then I thought, well, the deities, the devotees, if I just go hide in my room, it will not be appreciated by devotees. And if I just speak about some, managerial things or my favorite conspiracy stuff, that will not be a full delivery of Krishna consciousness. Because that's not Hari Katha. Then by coming here, start just invoking name of Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. Something came out of my heart which I share with you today, which I was not expect. See, I never prepare my lecture. I don't have time to read books. I naturally heard things from Guru, Vaishnavas, something I remember. I may not properly remember the places, the names, but I'm impressed how much Krishna consciousness I spoken today. And I can tell it was good. It was not on my expectation. If something came true, as Gurudev used to say, something better than nothing. Which means you engage in Hari Katha, you have faith, you speak with respect, something will come to your heart. And someone who does not understand, like I remember I used to give Russian class, and I had Lilavati coming to my Russian class, and hearing my Russian Harikatha. And she doesn't speak Russian. So when I was one time in Russia giving a lecture, and some people tried to argue with me. And you know what I told them? I said, I have some Chinese friend who doesn't speak Russian. He just come and hear my class. And you speak Russian, understand Russian, but you cannot understand what I'm speaking about Krishna because you're not mature. And you try to argue with me with your bullshit. And you know what? You're not going to get any benefit. However, this girl with her attitude, she gets full benefit of the lecture, even without knowing the language. But you think you're an intellectual, but actually you're a fool. Because I'm talking to you with very high spiritual substance, which you not even understand. So here's my recommendation. Just sit down, shut up, and listen. And even if you're not agree that Krishna is a God, or the Vedas is the knowledge, you'll get some benefit. Just by present here with the proper attitude. But if you come here to argue with me on wasting time of all these people that came to hear about Krishna, then you're not just destroying yourself, you're destroying people's opportunity because they're not interested with your conclusions. Actually, you don't have a conclusions. You know, if you would have conclusions, we can go to the argument. But if you're not having conclusions, there's no point of argument. So that is the rule. We have to open our heart, we have to open our mind, we have to accept things which may not be even understandable for us. Remember, a lot of the stuff, like, you know, I spoke with one director about a certain movie project. He read Mahabharata, he read Ramayana. You know what he said? Very interesting. He said, I've read Mahabharata. I think it will be very difficult for modern people to understand certain character behavior of the characters of Mahabharata. And I said, you're right. Why? Because people so much deviate from the truth. He said, Ramayana will be more understandable because there's a bad guy, there's a demon, look like a demon. You know, it's very difficult to understand the intricacy of Mahabharata because you might think, well, Krishna is guilty of people dying. Krishna is doing something very, you know, like, why is Krishna doing this? So let's end up here with a chant. And so what the conclusion is we observing certain days, and today, day after Ekadashi. My mother passed away, and I knew she was going to pass away. And I thought she was going to pass away on Ekadashi. But when I observed this calendar, I understand why she passed away after Ekadashi. See, my mother, before she passed away, she had full fasting. And they told me she's not eating already several days. Then I understand, if you don't eat, don't drink, there's only that much you can go. But she was lucky, she observed Ekadashi with no water, no food. And just like you can see, 3 of this Vaishnava disappear day after Ekadashi, which means we all know they were strict observers. Although they were liberated souls, but they show it to us. So when you observe Ekadashi, it's the mother of devotion. And the fasting is not just think. That day you have to hear about Krishna more and chant more and participate more. So that is unique. And I just realized myself, yesterday was Ekadashi, and we ate so much. Because we were on journey, we had business lunch. You know, they give us a bunch of food we couldn't deny. And I thought, well, that is horrible that I could not observe Ekadashi from one point of view. But from another point of view, I just made it back today by hearing about all these great personalities, by talking about Krishna consciousness. Everything you've lost can be gained by connecting with devotees, Krishna consciousness and stuff. So sometimes we're not able to observe certain things, sometimes we're not able to follow ideal way, as Gurudev said, something better than nothing. But when opportunity comes to us, we should not deny that. It is important. So we should always, as a surfer, wait for the wave and try to catch the wave. Hari Horaya Nama Krishna Yaduvaya Namoha. Yaduvaya Madhuvaya Keshivaya Namoha. Yaduvaya Madhuvaya Keshivaya Namoha. Gopal Govindara Shimadusudamo. Gopal Govindara Shimadusudamo. Giridhari Gopina Karanamo. Giridhari Gopina Karanamo. Jai Mustapha Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Mustapha Shri Bhakti Rashad Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Mustapha Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Guru Ki Jai, Mustapha Shri Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai, Mustapha Shri Srimad Bhaktivinoda Guru Ki Jai, Mustapha Shri Jagannatha Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai, Shri Rupanu Guru Varga Ki Jai, Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Jai Shri Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Shrimati Bhakti Lalita Devi ki jai. Bhakti Vrinda ki jai. Gopal Prabhu ki jai. All the Chinese ki devotees ki jai. Other devotees ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ganga Yamuna Devi ki jai. Gantara Shrimad Bhagavatam Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Vishnu Vaishnava Raj Sabha ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki jai. Jai female team of Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Thailand ki jai. Jai the male team ki jai. Bhakti Vrinda ki jai. Go Premanande Hari Hari. So we're going to have many guests coming. We're going to leave India